Thanks for joining us today. We are now in the last hour of today's spacewalk. The astronauts are currently fitting new experiments to the external laboratory. The multi-purpose platform is a unique opportunity for testing experiments in the harsh environment of space and in microgravity. The new set of experiments being installed today include a series of next-generation intelligent microchips that will one day improve how satellites collect and process data. Welcome, bienvenidos. Hello, wonderful that you've all made it. Your satellite training will be starting in a few seconds. But first, who have we joining us today? Atto, femto, kilo, macro, micro, nano, pico, yato, zeto. And just to let you know, we have some humans joining us today for training purposes only, so say hello, everyone. Okay then, let's get started. I am Sadie, and this is the Advanced Satellite Learning Lab, and you are here because we think you all will make great satellites. You will be a new generation of spacecraft that will help improve the health of all life on the planet. Today, we are going to talk about what we do and how. And maybe you humans in the audience, will want to join us as Guardians. Thank you. Oh, please. Okay then. Let's start with the basics. What is a satellite? A satellite is a device that captures or relays data as it orbits the planet. Satellites assist humans every day. They help forecast the weather. They help to communicate around the planet and stop humans from getting lost. Scientists use data from satellites to study the Earth's surface, the oceans, and atmosphere. The satellites have different tasks depending on their orbit distance. In the far-out orbit called geostationary, satellites can see large sections of the planet, making a location perfect for watching the weather. Medium orbit holds the satellites that help with navigation. We often call them GPS. Low orbit is good for studying small areas in great detail, ideal for creating data-rich maps. With this data, scientists have been building an understanding of how the land, oceans, and weather all interact with each other. This system, called the climate, has been stable for tens of thousands of years. But recent evidence of change has raised questions about the health of the planet. So how can we satellites help answer those questions? Well, we first need to look at ecosystems. Let's see. An ecosystem is a community of interacting organisms and their physical environment. Now let's break that down. This is an organism. It is a living thing that can take in molecules and resources from their environment, convert them to energy to live, and make copies of themselves. An organism could be a single bacteria, a fish, or a human being. Next, how do we decide what a healthy ecosystem is? Well, we look for 3 signs. Sign 1, organisms have populations that stay about the same over time. Sign 2, there are many different species of organisms. We call this biodiversity. Sign 3, these organisms will have developed relationships with other organisms. This helps recycle nutrients, which is another way of saying food. So these are the signs for healthy ecosystems: stable population, biodiversity, and relationships. Now let's go look at a real ecosystem. Oh, choices. Perfect. A forest. This is a simulation of a healthy ecosystem. In here, we are going to learn about relationships between organisms, why they are important, and how they form a living network. Let's start the tour underground. This is soil. It is made up of microscopic rocks, water, and organic matter. Organic matter is a mixture made from dead plants and animals. Our first sign of a healthy ecosystem is a population of worms. They help the soil by mixing it up and spreading out the organic matter. As the soil passes through the guts of the worm, millions of tiny resident bacteria get to work breaking the matter down. In many ways, the ecosystem cycle starts here, as these microscopic factories turn the organic matter into nutrients, creating a mutually beneficial relationship between worms and their bacteria. As the worm travels, it leaves behind trails of nutrients threaded through the soil. These nutrients are used by other organisms called fungi. They build networks through the soil and help break down harder plant material like wood. Some fungi have developed a special relationship with a bigger organism called a plant. Inside the skin of the roots, the fungi filter and transfer nutrient-rich water. In return, the plant provides a sugary syrup, which the fungi use for energy. The roots provide a benefit to all the underground organisms as they hold the soil together, preventing the nutrients from being washed away by the weather. Above the ground, the plants use the sun's energy, water from the soil, and carbon dioxide in the air to make sugars. This is called photosynthesis, and it is how the plants build their roots, branches, and leaves. A waste product of photosynthesis is oxygen. This creates a very special relationship as animals use this waste gas to breathe. Plants use their sugars and colorful flowers to attract insects. In this relationship, the bees help distribute the pollen and in return get vital nutrients for their hives. Sometimes the relationships in an ecosystem aren't mutually beneficial. These insects gain their energy by damaging their host tree. There's another relationship where a larger organism like a bird will eat small insects for energy. This is a predator and prey relationship, and it also benefits the tree as it keeps the harmful parasites away. And in return, the tree provides a diverse food supply, oxygen, and shelter. We can see that it's relationships in an ecosystem that keep the population stable in a cycle called a feedback loop. By removing a species like the worms, the loop starts to break as the impact of the loss moves from one species to the next. However, as long as a whole species is not suddenly removed and given enough time, the ecosystems will adapt to changes in their environment. Beyond this small forest, all around the planet, organisms are playing their part in helping regulate their environment. Each one has adapted to the climate of their region, from the grasslands, the mountains, deserts, the jungles, and oceans. Each one is home to diverse ecosystems. Although on different continents, they are connected together through a shared network called the biosphere. Our next task, then, is to look at the results that humans have already collected about ecosystems. Oh no, that does not look good. There has been a massive reduction in forests. Ocean populations are down. Freshwater ecosystems are suffering from pollution. And the list of endangered animals has grown to an all-time high. I would say this indicates that this is not a healthy planet. Okay, team, let's look back at human history and see if we can spot when and why this planet became unwell. It appears that the big decline in ecosystems began when the humans switched from using renewable resources to using fossil fuels. Although this energy source has brought great wealth and scientific progress, it comes at a cost that the rest of the planet can no longer sustain. The first impact on ecosystems we'll talk about is the climate. Thermometers around the planet are measuring record temperatures every year, and we can see the effects clearly from the data we collected from space. Thanks to satellite evidence, we are seeing the effect of climate change as the volume of summer ice at the poles has been declining. A warmer atmosphere is capable of absorbing more water. This is resulting in bigger and more destructive tropical storms. In other areas, the rising temperatures and longer dry periods are reducing access to fresh water and making wildfires more common. These extreme weather events are increasing in their frequency and are reducing the ecosystem populations. But these changes to the climate don't answer why the populations have dropped so rapidly. The second impact, and possibly the largest, is how much land is being used to supply what the humans eat. Let's take the surface area of the world and look at it another way. Let's then separate out the oceans, the ice regions, deserts and lakes. We are now left with roughly the habitable area of the planet. Up until the 1960s, this was mostly grassland and forest. Since then, 1% of that is now used for cities and roads. But half of these ecosystems have now been removed for the use of agriculture. About a quarter of that land is used for crops that are eaten by humans. It may surprise you that the rest has been converted to the production of meat and dairy. If humans really want to restore the health of the planet, simply reducing their consumption of meat and dairy would bring many benefits. Without the need for grazing land, ecosystems could start to recover and return to their natural state. It would instantly reduce a huge contributor to greenhouse gases, to river pollution, and to soil damage. Now, this isn't new information. There is a growing understanding about the important role that ecosystems provide in maintaining planet health and their role in providing sustainable food in the future. There are many projects around the planet that are demonstrating that adopting sustainable agriculture can increase nutrition and are economically beneficial. This brings us back to our place in the story. Because how will the humans know that these projects are working? And how can they monitor something as complex as an ecosystem with satellites? Works like this. The sunlight hits the earth. Some of the light is absorbed, but mainly it is reflected. A camera receives that light and stores it as a picture. The picture is made up of thousands of tiny squares called pixels. To the human eye, the color of each pixel is made up of a mixture of red, green, and blue. This is the visible part of the light spectrum. But the camera sees light across the whole spectrum, including light that humans can't see. This data is displayed as a curve. The shape of this curve is like a signature that tells the scientists about the object that pixel represents. So in this case, this pixel's curve tells us there is a plant. But there's more information in the curve. It can also tell us about the type of plant and its health. Then, by looking at all the pixels, the scientists can learn about the biodiversity and health of the ecosystem in that area of land. And by stitching all these pictures together and overlaying this on top of height data from radar satellites, a three-dimensional map of ecosystems and their environment emerges. This knowledge can be used to monitor deforestation, but also areas of new growth. Satellites can measure the volume of ice in the mountains. This will help in the study of glaciers and how they are reacting to rising global temperatures. Satellites can be used for monitoring soil health, as they can detect how much water is in the ground. These techniques can be used to study the atmosphere and help identify emissions of gases like carbon dioxide. With GPS data, scientists can track migrations of birds and other animals and study how these populations move from one ecosystem to the next. With data being collected 24 hours a day, scientists can build a multi-layered picture of the complex interactions between ecosystems and the environment on a global scale. Satellites are already playing a role in environmental monitoring and are enabling scientists to help with rapidly changing events like volcanic eruptions, wildfires, or oil spills. However, they are also watching the growing impact of another fossil fuel product, plastic. Right now, satellites are tracking giant plastic patches that are forming in the oceans. This pollution is mainly made up of single-use packaging or from nets discarded by the fishing industry. When we looked at the sample ecosystem, we saw that a healthy ecosystem recycles its waste and converts it back into a resource that can be reused. Humans don't yet have a relationship with ecosystems to recycle or process the enormous amount of plastic waste they produce. As a result, they pile it up, pour it into the oceans, or release it into the atmosphere by burning. The constant churning of the water fractures this waste into smaller and smaller pieces called microplastics. Floating in the rivers and oceans, they are the perfect home for bacteria. These microscopic toxic balls are then eaten or caught in the gills of aquatic animals. This is a global health concern, as these microplastics are entering the human diet. Reducing the amount of plastic waste would help the ocean ecosystems, but they need a larger effort as they are struggling from many different pressures like pollution, industrial fishing, and warming oceans. However, there is a great concern as the increasing CO2 in the atmosphere is also being absorbed by the oceans, they are becoming more and more acidic. This acidity has started to weaken the shells of many ocean creatures and is already affecting the health of ecosystems that are particularly fragile, like coral reefs. The changes are happening so quickly that life for these creatures is becoming increasingly difficult, and there is not enough time for them to adapt. Time is running out to protect all these ecosystems. It doesn't need a satellite to see that climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution are all linked to the same problem. This can be solved if the humans rethink how they use the Earth's resources and learn to live more sustainably. So if we satellites were humans, what could we do to live more sustainably? Let's start by taking an action, even a small one. The easiest place to start is by trying to waste less food. Try to choose food from sustainable sources and buy options that are made locally. Help by talking to other humans about the impact of what we consume, not just food, but everything we buy and use. By buying things that are reusable or repairable or fully recyclable. We can improve the air by making spaces for walking and cycling. Create ideas together with friends. It could be your idea that changes how humans travel, how to build cities in the future, or new ways to grow and cook delicious food. We all have to get involved. Only by using our collective voice can we push our governments to invest in an ecosystem-friendly world. We need to understand that there are many factors. But by looking at the issues creatively and using every technology we've got, from a garden spade to satellites, everyone can do something. Because every action helps. Who wants to be a guardian?
It was a pleasure working here today. See you soon. They're all yours.
Maybe if the humans could see the planet like a satellite, as a dynamic and complex system with trillions of simultaneous interactions every second. And then, at the same time, see it as a quiet and fragile ball that is our home. If we act together, we all will have the power to make a difference. And if we protect our planet's future by protecting the ecosystems, that makes all of us guardians.